A very good morning to all the mayors, residents, secretary, head of department, mayors, officers, and from the municipal throughout Malaysia. Mr. Jeffrey Delmon, World Bank Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to leadership training for the municipal on public-private partnership towards development of smart city pre-training. The purpose of today's training is to provide you the detail of this training and explain to you the flow and what need to be prepared for the actual training. Thank you for locating the time from your busy schedule. Today, here, myself, Anusha, Fatin, Arif is from MITE. We are the secretariat. And we have Mr. Jeffrey from World Bank Singapore, Mr. Shukri from KPKT. So we are basically the secretariat and to assist you throughout this training. Now I would like to brief you on the training, what to expect from here. One moment here. Okay, you guys can see the screen, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. This is a collaboration training between UNIDO, MITE, KPKT, IKPKT, World Bank. All right. We are conducting this training in order to improvise municipal leadership skill, to create long-term partnership between municipality and private sector, and to share best practices in municipal smart city experience and global lesson learned. Okay. Public-private partnership creates a long-term partnership between municipal and the private sector, under the premises that private sector can do better things than public sector, in particular around innovation, service delivery, commercial orientation, and drive efficiency. This is one way to do it better because we combine strength of municipality and private sector, which can deliver a quality, reliable, cost-efficient infrastructure. Okay, this whole training process will be conducted in 4 days in the duration of 2 weeks. Each week we'll do 2 sessions. Today is the pre-training for you to understand the flow of it and what to expect and what to prepare. All right. The actual training will take place on the 7th, 9th, 14th, and 16th July. 2 hours each session. We expected about 50 participants, but up to today, about 82 have registered. So it's quite overwhelming, and we appreciate that. We'll try to accommodate everybody. Our trainer will be Mr. Jeffrey Delmon, and he will be assisted by Abhishek from New Delhi. All right. The module that will be covered during this training is Introduction to Municipal PPP Framework and Project, Introduction to Project Readiness, Project Readiness Self-Assessment, Introduction to Municipal Readiness Self-Assessment, Knowledge Sharing Session with International and Mayors, Smart City Experience, and Inclusive Public Engagement. We expect by end of this training that you're able to learn the best practices in municipal public-private partnership, smart city experience, and global lesson learned. And the usage of how public-private partnership assess on the readiness on your own municipality, because we'll go through your project and maybe Jeffrey will able to suggest the best way to go about it. Okay. And the training platform will use Cisco WebEx. And yes, your internet have to be strong. You have to get a stable line in order to ensure that you can hear clearly. And all the material will be uploaded under the MYICSE platform. Mike will be hosting all sessions. Okay. Okay, this is the snapshot of the whole training. During pre-training, we'll share with you the material and exposure to the topic. Actual training, we'll provide you the module and assessment, and post-training, we'll follow up with you on your assessment. Okay, this is the program. Day 1, there'll be a welcoming remark from IKPKT, then opening remark by Mike, introduction to Smart City by Dr. Siti Muhaza from KPKT, and then there'll be a panel session moderated by Jeffrey. And the panelists, you can see, is our council members, right? Yang berbahagia, YDH, CPR Hajar Nuraini. Yang bahagia, Dato' AR, Yutung Siang, Mayor of the City of Council of Penang Island. Then we have Yang berbahagia, Dato' TPR Muhammad Anwar, Director of Plan Malaysia. And then there'll be Q&A. The next session is on the week 1 also, but day 2. We start the official training, where we have introduction to municipal PPP framework and project. And then we have the case study, and then there'll be Q&A. On day 3 program, there'll be introduction to municipal readiness tools and municipal readiness self-assessment, panel session, experience on implementing municipal PPP program. Okay, this is also moderated by Jeffrey, but your panelists will be more to those who are handling the smart city. Okay, so you can hear their experience. And then there will be Q&A. And day 3, there'll be leadership skill in day 4, sorry. There'll be leadership skill in PPP, municipal readiness self-assessment will continue. And then we have Q&A. And the final one will be on the post-assessment on 30th July. All right, so now I'll hand over to Mr. Jeffrey Delmon for him to brief. Jeff?
I'm here. Thank you, Nisha.
All right.
Are we still getting that feedback?
Sorry?
Is there an echo still? Wait, everybody mute except me.
Oh, you can unmute yourself. No, I
yes.
can hear you.
Mute
yes.
everyone else.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Hold on. I have mute all. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. How's that? You still getting the feedback? Everybody okay? Just give me a thumbs up if we're good. Yes, fantastic. All right. My name is Jeff. I'm a senior PPP specialist at the World Bank. I've been working in PPP around the world for the last 26 years now. And let's say I've been with the World Bank for 15 years. And before that, I was a lawyer. I worked in big law firms in Paris and London and worked in PPP. So I was the guy that put all the contracts together and the financing agreements and the operating agreements and all those different bits and pieces that you'll see around a PPP deal. And which was a really great way to start into the PPP world because it forces you to work with the engineers and with the bankers and with the accountants and with the tax people and put all these different pieces together. So thank you very much for inviting me into your homes and offices for this virtual event. It's going to be a really interesting training. Very excited to see Anusha sent me the list of all the different people who will be involved in this. One thing I want to highlight, first of all, if we're just listening to the speakers, that's going to be very boring. We want to hear from you. You have all this concrete experience on the ground, delivering services, managing the craziness of municipal services. And, you do this stuff every day. We're bringing in new ideas, but those new ideas are pointless unless they work for you. So we need your help. We need your guidance. We need your wisdom. And plus, it'll be much more interesting if you guys are doing most of the talking rather than us. Is that okay? Yes? Fantastic. The other thing is we're going to try to do a lot of back and forth and sharing, but realizing that we're all on our own individual devices. What we'd like to do is if you'd like to say something or you've got a comment, if you could put it into the chat. And you all know how the chat works. There's a little image of a person at the top of your screen or at the bottom of your screen. Tap on that and there's a chat box at the bottom. Push on the chat box and just type in your comment. Anusha has very kindly offered to be our coordinator and our moderator for the chat discussion. So she's got the power. So as you raise your chat or your issue, she will then make sure to raise it to us. And that way we've got a flow so that we don't have too many people trying to jump on at the same time. And as always, please stay on mute. I know we will repeat this over and over and over again. I think that is the biggest challenge of COVID is repeating over and over again, please mute, please mute. But as long as everybody's on mute, then I think they'll be able to hear the people speaking more easily. You've got materials. We've given you homework. I hope everybody's ready for homework. Right? Yes, I see enthusiastic faces. Everyone, you've already done your homework, right? You've done your reading? No, oh, now people are looking down at their desk. So no, you haven't done your homework yet. So you've been given 4 documents to look at. One is a set of guidelines. Oh, just got them this morning. You think that's an excuse? You've had all morning to read them and you haven't read them yet. So you've got them this morning. So there are 4 documents that you'll see. The longest one is the guidelines, and the guidelines walk you through the PPP process and a lot of the theory and arguments behind it, right? And it's all focused on municipalities, how local government can implement PPP. These guidelines are part of a larger framework. This is something we put together last year. Bringing together experience from all over the world. There's the guidance notes, beautiful. This is part of this larger municipal PPP framework that brings together experience from all over the place. The guidelines are the base document that gives you all the basic information. And linked to those guidelines are a series of modules. They're the modules you see listed there. And each one covers a particular specific focus. You have received 3 of those modules to review. Now, of course, for extra credit, you can read all of the modules. That's very long. But for the 3 that I sent you, the first one asks, how should a municipality prepare itself to do PPP? What are the skills that a municipality needs to think about? What are the institutional arrangements that it should think about? What's the legal regulatory background? How do we get things ready? How do we get the people lined up, the decision processes lined up so that we can do PPP well? And obviously, this is a very simple set of questions, right? This is not meant to go into a lot of depth. This is to ask first questions. And that's going to be the topic of, actually, that's topic of day 3. So day 2, we're going to give you the basics of PPP and give you some examples from a bus terminal and from solid waste management, 2 very different types of project with very different drivers. So we can compare and contrast those 2. Then day 3, we're going to go to this question about municipal capacity and readiness. This now is the second document, or sorry, the third document I give you, the second module. This asks, all right, now the municipality is ready to go. And the municipality looks at its list of projects. Here's all the things that we want to do with PPP. How do I know if a project is appropriate for PPP and ready to move to the next level? And so this now asks a bunch of the very basic questions. It's early in the process of selecting a project for PPP. This asks, what is the characteristics of this project? Does it fit with the drivers of PPP? And does that make sense? You now see on your screens the 4th document. Now the 4th document is linked to all of the above. The 4th document asks, actually, let me take a step back and
Okay.
let me use a metaphor that I will use often, and I want to apologize in advance if this is if this bothers anyone. But for me, PPP takes the public sector and the private sector and brings them together to deliver a task. The public sector is really good at some things, the private sector is really good at some things. And if you bring them together, those strengths together are stronger than the individual strengths of the 2. So public is good at some things, private is good at some things. Bring them together and make them stronger. And the image I like to use for this, and again, my apologies, I'm hoping I'm not offending anyone. My image is marriage. And I'm going to guess that there are a few married people on this call. And for those of you who are married, you know what it's like to take a man and a woman and to bring them together in a household, to work together and to partner together to create a life together. And it is amazing how different men and women are. And, yes, I knew that before I got married. But once I got married, I realized, oh my gosh, we are so different. But there are also strengths of each gender, of each of these individuals, right? You're taking 2 people, bringing them together with their different strengths, their different abilities, but also their different weaknesses. And we can cover each other's weaknesses. We can support each other's strengths. And bringing them together makes a stronger unit. That family becomes stronger because those 2 individuals come together in a partnership. And which is true in any business partnership and any government partnership. Those partnerships are essential because they drive the strengths of the 2 together to make more than the 1. Right? And so that one of the essential things for government staff, for municipal staff, is to understand better how the private sector thinks, how the private sector works. And there's some of you who have worked in the private sector and are now in government. There are others who have always been in government. And whichever your experience, you need to understand better how the private sector works, how they think, what drives their decisions, what drives the way they do business. This module, sorry, could you move on to module 20, which is the 4th piece of homework that I sent. Module 20 is about private sector. How does private sector look at things? How do they think about things? What drives their decision processes? When the private, and we were preparing projects, right? You take a project and you bring it out to the private sector. You know that you like the project. You know that from the municipal local government perspective, this is a great project. But is it what the private sector is looking for? And so these questions will help you think about, what does the private sector want to see? And have I done things in a way that will fit with where the private sector is coming from, their perspective? Okay, now I've done a lot of talking. I want to test you. How is my English? Am I speaking clearly enough? Do you want me to speak more slowly? What is this okay? How are we doing on am I comprehensible?
Semua orang faham ke apa yang Jeff explain? Oh, okay. There's a message. Your English is amazing.
Okay.
Nice and clear.
I've been practicing for a long time.
Looks like it's not an issue for them.
Okay, great.
Okay.
If anyone has an issue with the language or with a word or with am I going too fast or I'm not explaining, please ask. Because if you have the question, you're not the only one. There will be other people with questions as well, right, on the same topic. So please feel free to ask. It's really important that you do so that everyone understands. Okay? Awesome. So that's sort of the lineup. And now you've got your homework. So to read these different things, but there's another level of the homework. And that is for modules 1 and 2. So the municipal assessment and the project assessment, we want to be more specific. So for the municipal assessment, when we get to day 3, day 3 is going to start with a session discussing municipal capacity. As part of that discussion, I want you to tell me, how ready is your local government? Now, so I want you to go through module 1 and answer those questions based on the situation in your local government. Right? And then we're going to have the panel session that gives experience from different people who have been involved in local PPP, local government engagements. But I think the most important piece is to understand from you where you see the biggest challenges in getting your local government ready for PPP. And this will also help us and help MITE understand and help the larger government understand, where do you need help? Where do municipal governments in Malaysia need help preparing themselves to do more in PPP? So that's the day 3. Now, if you go through to day 4, day 4 has a slot for follow-up on this municipal readiness. And what I'd like to do for session 4 is to keep that flexible. So see that middle slot. The first one, we're going to talk about leadership skills. And this is absolutely essential for PPP. You cannot make that partnership work without communication, without coordination within government, but also coordination with the private sector, so that we're all working together. That leadership is super important, and there's skills that are a little bit different than the normal skills that you would need for local government. They're very similar, but there's some key differences and some things that we want to highlight. But in that second bit of day 4, we've got a slot for municipal readiness. Now, there are 2 different things we can do with this. If on day 3 we start talking about municipal readiness and you have a lot of questions and you want to talk a lot about your local government and how to get it ready and how to help and how to do those things, fantastic. Then we will use this as an overflow, and we will continue that discussion. If, however, you are happy with where you are, and that you're happy with the discussion we have on day 3. What I would like to do with day 4 is turn this into a project assessment day. And what I would like is for different participants, and first of all, everyone, to look at Module 2. Module 2 sets out the project assessment. So go through Module 2 and pick out, say, 2 projects from your local government, 2 projects that you're thinking about doing. Or if you've only got one that you're really excited about, that's fine too. So 1 or 2 projects, and apply the assessment to those projects. Think about how your project would fit. And if in the preparation of this, and actually let's do this, have those ready by session 2. And this will help you, because in session 2, on the 9th of July, we're going to talk about projects, and we're going to look at case studies, and we're going to start looking at a lot of these things. Before that session, have prepared that module 2 for at least 1 project for your local government. And if you'd like, you can get into groups as well. So if you've got 3 or 4 people from your team that are going to be joining this, or 3 or 4 people from your local government and you'd like to work together on 1 or 2 projects, that's great. Fill out and complete this assessment so that we can understand better what projects you're looking at and what you're thinking about, and then send those to us. Let's say send them to us by July 7th. And then Abhijit and I will have a look at your assessments, and that will help us see what kind of projects you want to talk about, and then we can adjust the session so we focus on the kind of projects that you're interested in. We can identify the areas where you're having the most difficulty. So, where the big challenges are, the different things that you want to talk about and that you're interested in. And then what we can do is on that day 4, after we've talked about it on day 2, then we talk about municipal, how the municipal organization works and how you get your municipality ready. On day 4, if you don't want to talk about municipal readiness, if you'd like to talk more about projects, we can actually pull 2 or 3 of those projects and use them as examples. And if you're feeling confident and if you're comfortable with this, we will take 2 or 3 of these projects. We'll select the ones that have the most information, that have the most developed, are the most developed, and we'll take those and we'll assess them. Has anybody's watched what's that thing called? Is it The Dragon's Den? There's a TV show where young business entrepreneurs bring their project ideas, and they bring them out to this panel of judges, and the judges look at their ideas and they say, oh, you should do this and you should do that, and what about this and what about that. We'll try to do something like that so that we can take some of your projects, the ones that you want to develop. We'll then take those away, we'll think about it, we'll test them, we'll push it, we'll ask lots of questions, and then we'll use this as a group exercise so that everyone will see these 2 or 3 projects, and you'll see how Abhijit and I, as people experienced in this PPP world, the questions that we ask. And Abhijit, you'll meet him. I think he only joins us on session 2. But Abhijit's great. He's based in Delhi. He's got huge experience, not just in India, but all across the globe. I've worked with him in Africa and around Asia and Central Asia and all over the place. And he's very much a private sector guy. So he works mostly with private sector investors, looking at projects and testing them and poking them and asking difficult questions. So together we'll look at your projects, we'll give you that feedback, and then we can spend an hour, sort of like 15 minutes on each project. We'll present the project and say, here's what it is, here's how it works. And then we'll ask questions, and we'll throw it out to the entire group. We'll let everyone ask questions so that we're all sort of bouncing things back and forth. And then we can really flesh out those project issues. So depending on how we go on day 3 and how comfortable you are with the discussion around municipal institutions and capacity, etc., then maybe we'll use that 4th day to look more at these projects, which would be good fun. How does that sound? All good? I can't see anyone anymore because the PowerPoint's up, but so chat us if what you think. That sound exciting? Is everyone inspired? Don't tell me you're already reading your modules, right? You're already doing your homework?
Jeff, there's some question there from Nur Halima Muhammad. Okay, do these tools same as value meeting, is it? Management, yeah.
Sorry,
Can you explain a bit on your question?
Sorry, could you read the question again?
Yeah, carry on.
All right, thank you very much. When I'm listening that when we have a process before implementing, we had to do the value management. Is it the same methodology you are given us today, this session? Value management.
Value for money assessment.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's a great question. So, so the concept of value for money goes back to the question of should I use PPP or not, and which is obviously a really important question, right? You can use PPP for most things, but you should only use PPP where you get better value by bringing in the private sector. And this goes back to questions about what does the private sector, what do they bring to the table? What value can they add? It should not just be about money. It has to be also be about efficiency and quality of services delivered and how the advantages that they can provide to you as a government. And so as part of that process, you will ask those questions about what the private sector can add. And there are detailed methodologies that ask a whole series of questions that help you identify where the private sector can add this value. And that's a very important part of the PPP decision process. As you look at the project assessment, you will see a few of those questions, but just a very few. A proper value for money assessment is very detailed and requires a lot of data. You need to really understand your project before you can ask those questions. The module 2 is very simple. Module 2 is designed for early project identification. So if you have a lot of information about your project, great. But if you only have a little bit, that's okay too, because you can still use this module. But it will not give you the full value for money. That is an additional exercise that you'll do after you do this first assessment. And because the value for money assessment costs a lot of money to do, right? That's when you really start putting money on the table to deliver things. What you want to do is a first level assessment it's like a triage. It's going through and filtering out the projects that you really don't want to spend time on and that should really be publicly financed or maybe should be fully privately financed. But the ones that you want to bring to PPP are a smaller subset. First, get that small subset and then do value for money on that smaller group of projects.
Okay,
Great. That was a great question. And any other questions come up?
Hold on. So far, nope. That's about it.
Okay, cool. Is everyone excited, bored, asleep, interested? Maybe? Yes? What do you think? Is this going to be interesting? What could we do better if there's something missing?
Is there anything that you would like to learn from this? We can always add on other things that may interest you.
So it looks like we hit it perfectly. Got everything exactly as we needed to have it. Like I think we have a very clear schedule, and you see the agenda. We can adjust that agenda. So as we go, please let us know if there are any topics that you would like to discuss, any subjects, any sectors, any kinds of projects that you're really interested in. And there's so many different options. You've been given a link to a website, and the website has the full set of guidelines, modules, everything else.
Yeah.
If you have a chance, please look at that website. And in particular, I told you about the guidelines, the modules. There's also a long list of project summaries. And this is, I don't remember how many now, I think it's 105 different projects. And they're very short summaries. They're 3-page summaries, right? Very brief. But it gives you an example of how local governments around the world are doing all these really crazy, interesting projects. We'll give you some examples during the training, but if you get a chance, go through there, and it might just spark some interesting ideas and some areas that you're excited about or interested in, or things that you've never thought, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you could use PPP to do parking, or to do convention centers, or to do schools, or a library. There are all kinds of really interesting examples of projects that have been done. And they're fun as well. I love the municipal PPP space because it's so creative. It's so close to the people that the services you are providing can become much more commercial as well. So when you think about a bus terminal, when government thinks about bus terminal, they tend to think about the cost of building a building. I've got to build a bus terminal, take care of the buses. Here's how the buses are going to come in, and here's what I have to spend. If you bring in a private partner, in addition to thinking about the bus terminal, a private partner says, oh my gosh, look at all these people coming to the bus terminal. Those are all customers. Let's sell them lots of different things. Let's provide them with services. Think about all those buses coming to the bus terminal. Those are customers. Let's sell the buses maintenance facilities and petrol and all kinds of things. They think about things in a very different way. And at municipal level, there's such an opportunity. And think about the people using the bus terminal. If when I'm going home and I go to catch my bus, I can also do my shopping. I can pay my taxes. I can get a license for something. I can, get my shoes fixed. I can all these different things that you can do in your bus terminal. That's hugely advantageous. If I want to build an office, having an office above a bus terminal might be really helpful, because that way my staff come that way. Maybe my customers come in through the bus terminal. All these different things. Hotels above bus terminals. I found out that my grandparents, they moved to the United States from France, and their first job was they built hotels on top of bus terminals, and the hotels did incredibly well. Nobody had thought about the fact that people arriving by bus might want someplace to stay. So super exciting, super interesting opportunities, and love to talk about how these things fit within your dynamic. What is it that you need fixed, that we might think about ways to use a private sector to help you fix your challenges?
That someone's office is next to bus terminal.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
depending on how the person feels. So, HP, how do you feel about that?
Is it too noisy or is it useful? You can talk on this one. You don't have to type.
You can unmute and speak, HP. I only can see the short form, so I'm not sure what's the full name.
Useful, I guess. Excellent. So let's
Useful.
and let's debate all of these things, right? I mean, all these things for different contexts and different places. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. You know, it just depends. In France, there's a convention center, and the city wanted to build this center to bring so people could have cultural events and all kinds of exciting things. They didn't know how to pay for it, so they built a casino on top of it, and the casino made lots of money, and they took the money and used it to pay for the cultural events. Now, in some countries, that's just not possible, right? Nobody wants a casino because it makes for a bad part of town. In Singapore, where I live, Singapore built casinos, which amazes me. I mean, Singapore is not the kind of country that normally puts up with something like a casino, but they've managed it very well, and they control it very carefully so that you don't get those kind of spillover impacts. But those are exactly the kind of things that we need to think about when we look at private sector, because private will want to push those who in the private sector will want to push more and more commercial activities, which is good, but we need to protect the public service and protect the public dynamic of the space. So it's a really interesting balance between the two, and very exciting, but definitely something that we should debate and discuss. So, Anusha, that's all
Yeah.
I've got on my list of things for today.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. And I would like to open the floor for any question that you want to clarify. Ada apa-apa nak tanya ke pasal training ni? Apa-apa yang diperlukan ke, apa yang tak faham ke? So that kita boleh buat preparation yang sesuai untuk semua. Right. If there's nothing, this would be our...
Sorry, Anusha.
Yes.
Okay, regarding the submission for the project, so
Yes.
you're discussing in the group or in this big group? How do the discussion goes?
Okay. Are you okay to be open to everybody, your project?
Or no, I'm just asking. I'm not thinking what project.
All right. Basically, we'll take, depend on what is your project, and then we'll take it, and then we can discuss with the group to make a betterment of your project, and then we can give feedback. So Jeff is the expert of PPP, so he can advise, he and Abhijit can go through the project, and then we can discuss in the group.
In any aspect, right? In any aspect? In any aspect, in everything?
Yeah, in everything, I guess. So,
Alright.
Jeff, do you want to elaborate on that? How do you want to carry on the project?
Or only for the municipal function? Or only focus on the municipal function? Municipality sahaja? Itu
So
sahaja or everything we can discuss?
No, we'll look at everything, and if you have existing projects and you want to ask questions, or you've got some problems or challenges, if you have a project that you're already developing and you've got questions, or there's a particular angle, then you can just drop me an email and let me know what those questions are, what those things are, and then we can raise them. Or if you want the larger, and what we're looking at for the submission on July 7th, and don't forget, July 7th, send me your project submissions. And there we're taking a project and we're going through the assessment in Module 2. Module 2 sets out a series of questions. Just answer those questions for the project, and it will lead you down a process of thinking about the project and the different elements of it. And then as we look at those elements, the challenges, the gaps, the things that you need to work on will pop out of that. And then we can talk about that together. A couple of projects we can do as a group, and then if there's are other projects that you'd rather talk about separately, then I'm sure we can arrange a separate call and discuss that. That's not a problem. But as far as the group goes, send by July 7th, the end of the day, send me your project assessments for at least one project. And again, get together in groups, however you want to do it, so that you get all the different inputs and angles and perspectives. Send those in, and then we'll look at them. And assuming we have time, and we probably will on day 4, then we'll choose 2 or 3 of those and discuss them as a larger group.
Jeff, is there any format that you need them to submit, or just a brief of the project? Just a one-pager, or what kind of details that you need for them to send?
That's a good question. Let me, what might be easiest, let me send, because I think I sent you a PDF version of module 2, right?
Yeah.
Let me send you a Word version of module 2. Actually, I'll send you a Word version of module 1 and module 2.
Okay.
And then you can just fill those out. That'll be easier.
Perfect. And there's a question here. I believe it should be relevant. Okay, he's from Kota Baru. All right. They just entered an agreement with company to manage parking system. So he's asking, is it comply with this topic? I believe so, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think that's about it for now. All right. Excellent. We have added them into a WhatsApp group. If anybody not in the WhatsApp group, please let us know. All right. So that we can constantly communicate to them until the end of July for this training. And we are here to help you as much as we can, because this is what Datuk KSU from KPKT wanted. He wanted us to help all the municipal, and we are here to help you guys. Right? We are not the expert, but we can work together with you, all right, for successful of this initiative. Yeah, we help each other. Right? So thank you for your time for today. And I'll see you all on the 7th July, 10 a.m.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and Fatin have sent you the links for the series of the training. So you'll be keep posted with any progress, any changes, and we'll email you the template that Jeff's going to send to us too. All right. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Brilliant. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, then.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
So much, Anusha and everybody. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
This is related to all aspects of smart city. MBA, S.